How did this tiny survivor navigate ancient devastated landscapes immediately following the catastrophic global Triassic mass extinction event? Why did evolutionary pressures favor elongated hind limbs and drastically shortened forelimbs for vital rapid ancient terrestrial escape strategies? What functional advantage emerged when a sharp keratinous beak paired perfectly with grooved ancient foliage cutting dental structures? How did this vulnerable herbivore rely entirely on explosive sprinting rather than developing heavy prehistoric defensive skeletal armor? Could recent geological findings finally prove these ancient agile creatures actually traveled in coordinated complex prehistoric social groups? What hidden evolutionary secrets does this remarkably primitive skeleton reveal about the earliest fascinating basal Ornithischian dinosaur lineages? How did such a diminutive species successfully navigate a vast, dangerous Jurassic world dominated by towering carnivorous theropods? Don't miss what comes next in this story. Watch to the very end.
I'm Jonny Dony, and welcome to a channel dedicated to scientifically grounded dinosaur documentaries. Today, we explore shadows cast by swift early runners, tracking the agile Lesothosaurus across ancient floodplains. Monetization here has grown unpredictable lately, so this channel relies entirely on direct viewer support. If you value this work, please consider becoming a sponsor on Patreon, because every contribution helps produce the next film. Link below. Please like and subscribe to join our growing community. Now, let me take you back in time.
Shadows cast by swift early runners. The past is never dead. It's not even past. William Faulkner. Jurassic Floodplain. The Upper Elliott Formation preserves a stark geological record of the Hatangian stage. Between 201 and 190 million years ago, the end Triassic extinction cleared the continental canopy. Dust settled on the exposed bedrock. Slowly, the recovering landscape began to breathe across the warming plains. Seasonal rainfall dictates survival across this semi-arid floodplain. Summer storms deposit barely 300 millimeters of water across the cracked red mudstone. Tough ferns and low cycads cluster tightly around the shrinking pools. The ancient soil remains parched and still. A pure sauropodomorph browses the distant tree line. Its heavy footsteps compress the loamy topsoil by nearly 10 centimeters. Small herbivores track these disturbances, using the freshly trampled ground to locate new sprouts. The open ecosystem thrives in this balance. The geology shifts toward the Sinemurian interval. Groundwater retreats nearly 5 meters below the surface during the dry months. A small synapsid darts through the dry grass, seeking cool shelter beneath a fallen ancient conifer branch. The harsh conditions demand constant movement. A contemporary pterosaur glides silently across the open basin. Its wingspan measures just over 1 meter, casting a fleeting shadow over the cracked clay. Wind speeds average 12 kilometers per hour across the bare ridges. The air remains still. The early Jurassic climate exerts relentless pressure on every organism. Soil moisture drops below 15% as the dry season peaks. This arid environment shapes survival long before any complex social structures emerge. The relentless geological cycle continues its slow march forward. This chapter reveals how post-extinction floodplains recovered under severe seasonal drought and sparse vegetation. Record your analysis of these early survival patterns in the comments. Like and subscribe to support our ongoing research. The next chapter tracks a lightweight 2-meter biped across this exact terrain.
Bipedal species. The animal rises onto its hind legs, a compact frame measuring just 2 meters long. Its slender body plan rests lightly above the dry, ancient Upper Elliott floodplain. A tiny synapsid darts beneath the deep shadow, highlighting the creature's delicate scale. Long hind limbs drive the forward momentum, while the short forelimbs remain tucked tightly against the chest. This bipedal stance shifts the center of gravity directly over the hip. Strong muscle contractions propel the agile species swiftly across exposed bedrock. Stride length increases steadily as the dusty ground opens toward scattered cycad groves. The smooth, lightweight frame absorbs each heavy impact without wasting vital energy. This sustained velocity defines the daily routine, turning open terrain into a corridor for rapid transit. Large eyes sweep the horizon, tracking sudden movement across the dry basin. A distant Massospondylus browses the low canopy, its heavy bulk anchoring the landscape. The small runner pauses, calculating precise distance before resuming its cautious advance across open ground. Foraging requires constant directional shifts across highly patchy vegetation. The head lowers briefly to crop tough ferns, then snaps sharply upward at the slightest rustle. This steady rhythm conserves vital stamina while maintaining maximum awareness of shifting shadows. The long tail swings outward to counterbalance each sudden turn. Core muscles tense along the spine, locking the posture for rapid acceleration. The animal pivots on narrow feet, a living testament to sustained terrestrial agility and precise balance. Could a 2-meter frame truly sustain such relentless movement? Our footage highlights how lightweight bones and precise balance enabled rapid transit. Like and subscribe to help us document these ancient survival strategies. Next, we examine the reinforced femurs and specialized jaws powering this motion.
Swift limb. The elongated pelvis anchors massive thigh muscles that drive each powerful stride forward. Dense cortical bone reinforces the robust femur against torsional stress. A browsing sauropodomorph moves slowly across the distant ridge, clearly highlighting the stark contrast in skeletal leverage. Slender metatarsals strike the hard ground with minimal contact time. Each rapid footfall transfers kinetic energy through the stiff lower spine. The reinforced vertebral column locks firmly into place during high-speed directional shifts across the uneven floodplain terrain below the ridge. Reduced forelimbs shift the center of gravity directly over the hips. This forward weight distribution eliminates aerodynamic drag during sudden pivots. A small synapsid darts past the foraging edge, clearly demonstrating the precise scale of these lightweight terrestrial mechanics. Constant motion demands efficient oral processing without breaking stride. Its jaws combined a beak-like cropper with grooved, leaf-shaped teeth, a feeding system adapted for slicing and processing tough plant matter. A passing pterosaur briefly casts a fleeting shadow overhead. Vertical chewing strokes rapidly reduce fibrous cycad fronds into highly digestible pulp. This precise mechanical action conserves vital metabolic reserves during extended foraging runs. The lightweight skeletal structure carries minimal excess weight across the dry, Upper Elliott floodplain soils exposed to sun. Integrated musculoskeletal adaptations transform basic vertebrate posture into sustained running machinery. Each coordinated muscle contraction propels the animal across open terrain. The powerful hindquarters drive continuous forward momentum, perfectly aligning specialized physical architecture with daily survival demands in sustained motion. While earlier chapters mapped the environment, this segment reveals the internal mechanics powering sustained movement. We trace how specialized bones and precise chewing transformed a compact frame into running machinery. Like and subscribe to track our anatomical findings. The next chapter demonstrates how this exact architecture thwarted pursuing predators.
Predator escape. Two slender herbivores lock feet on a dry upper Elliott ridge, muscles coiling for a sudden shove. One rival drives forward, forcing the other backward across sparse cycad fronds. The defeated individual pivots sharply, yielding the elevated ground without a prolonged clash. A heavy theropod named Megapnosaurus bursts from the brush, its jaws snapping toward the exposed flank. The small herbivore triggers an explosive sprint, leaving the pursuing predator lunging at empty air. Dust plumes rise as the agile target vanishes behind a sandstone outcrop. A land-running crocodilian named Protosuchus lunges from a shallow waterhole, attempting to pin the fleeing runner. The small dinosaur leaps over the snapping jaws, landing lightly on the opposite bank. The reptilian attacker recoils into the murky shallows, thwarted by superior vertical clearance. Sharing the upper Elliott floodplain with Massospondylus and Megapnosaurus, the small herbivore occupies a strictly prey niche. Devoid of heavy armor, it depends entirely on explosive speed to survive every sudden attack. The pursuing hunter abandons the chase when the gap widens beyond 50 meters. Two juveniles collide near a patch of horsetails, their narrow shoulders pressing against one another in a frantic scramble. The dominant individual forces its companion toward a narrow gully, clearing a direct escape corridor. The displaced animal yields, sprinting parallel to the ridgeline. A giant pterosaur dives toward the scattered group, talons extending to snatch a straggler from the ferns below. The herd erupts into synchronized flight, scattering the aerial threat across the open sky. The surviving runners settle into a steady, vigilant trot across the basin floor. The next chapter tracks how collapsing rainfall fractures our ancient floodplain. Our current analysis of evasive speed reveals why agility cannot outlast drought. Like and subscribe to follow our detailed paleontological investigations. We will expose the exact ecological turnover that erases this lineage completely.
Faunal Extinction. The upper Elliott floodplain fractures into isolated dry basins. Seasonal rainfall patterns collapse, stripping vital moisture from the ancient soil. A massive sauropodomorph strips the last cycad fronds from the ridge, claiming the dwindling vegetation outright. Ground cover thins rapidly. Associated bone beds suggest these small runners gathered in loose groups. A recent 2022 analysis proposes tentative herd living as a behavioral defensive response. The scattered assembly moves across open ground, watched closely by a vigilant peer theropod. Evolving competitors with specialized digestive tracts monopolize the remaining fern patches. Primitive jaw mechanics prove inefficient against tougher drought-resistant flora. The runners face mounting nutritional stress as productive feeding territories shrink by half. Metabolic reserves deplete quickly under relentless environmental stress. Population density fractures across the drying valleys. Isolated subgroups lose their established breeding ranges entirely. A contemporary archosaur stalks the thinning margins, exploiting the weakened stragglers that consistently lag behind. Vigilance alone cannot compensate for the absolute daily caloric deficit. Ecological turnover accelerates through the shifting landscape. Dominant herbivorous lineages adapt to the new arid regime, leaving primitive browsers behind. The final breeding pairs retreat into shrinking refuges, their numbers dwindling rapidly. Genetic diversity collapses under the relentless ecological pressure. Terminal conditions seal the fate of this lineage. Relentless drought and intensifying herbivore competition deliver the final blow to an already fragile ecosystem. Gradual ecological replacement claims the remaining populations, closing. This chapter confirms that prolonged drought permanently collapsed these primitive browsing populations. We invite you to discuss how ecological pressure shaped their final defensive behaviors below. Please like and subscribe to support our ongoing paleontological research. The next chapter reveals how their backward-tilting pelvis created the blueprint for all modern bird-hipped dinosaurs.
Ornithischian Lineage. A solitary runner navigates the dry Upper Elliott floodplain, its posture echoing a primitive evolutionary blueprint. The pelvic structure tilts backward, anchoring muscles for a distinctive bipedal stride. This stance marks the earliest functional template for all later bird-hipped dinosaurs. A contemporary theropod emerges from the sparse cycad thickets, forcing an immediate sprint across the exposed floodplain. The lightweight femur absorbs the severe shock of sudden directional pivots. Speed alone guarantees passage into the next generation, carrying vital traits forward. One exhausted individual finally collapses beside a dried seasonal channel, its breathing slowing until the body goes still. Scavengers gather within hours, leaving only scattered fragments behind. The bleached skeleton gradually sinks into fine silt, beginning a permanent geological archive. Over many millions of years, groundwater mineralizes the porous bone bed, transforming fragile tissue into dense calcium phosphate. Paleontologists now carefully extract these preserved fragments from the Clarence Formation. Each recovered specimen reveals precise dental arrangements and primitive joint structures. That same ancestral blueprint echoes through countless modern bird species today, linking distant descendants to their ancient terrestrial ancestors. The backward-pointing pubis bone fundamentally reshaped digestive capacity across millions of generations. We observe this quiet, evolutionary triumph in every surviving avian lineage. These ancient remains now rest permanently within compacted stone, anchoring our understanding of early dinosaur diversification. Lesothosaurus stands as a foundational reference point for basal ornithischian evolution. Its fossilized jaw mechanics illuminate. Our exploration of early ornithischian evolution concludes with these fossil records. We invite you to consider how ancient skeletal adaptations shaped modern avian survival. Support our ongoing research by liking and subscribing to the channel. Explore our complete archive for additional Jurassic discoveries.
Our film, Shadows Cast by Swift Early Runners, concludes here, and I am Jonny Dony. Tracking Lesothosaurus across ancient floodplains revealed how early herbivores thrived through speed and vigilance. Thank you for sharing this deep time journey with me today. Please subscribe and leave a comment about your favorite prehistoric discovery. New dinosaur documentaries drop on Patreon a full week before the public release, link below. My deepest gratitude goes to every sponsor and subscriber funding these detailed productions. In just a few seconds, 2 videos with equally interesting dinosaur documentaries will appear on the screen, so continue watching the next fascinating story.